Hey guys, we are so excited about our topic today. We are going to be talking about how to restore intimacy after a wound or after betrayal in marriage. This is a tough one, but we're excited to tackle it with you. Stay tuned.
Hey, I'm Rusty.
And I'm Heather.
And we're the Bryants, and this is the Redeemed Marriage Podcast.
We are here to encourage healthy marriages, strengthen wounded marriages, and begin the process of restoration to broken marriages.
We aren't licensed counselors, but we are a redeemed couple that loves the Lord and wants to help you journey through this messy, challenging, and fun part of life called marriage. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Redeemed Marriage Podcast. This is Rusty and Heather Bryant. We are so glad to be back with you for our weekly marriage discussion, and we just love spending time with you and being able to... Why are you looking?
Because you have a Bible in your lap.
Yeah, well, we got to go do something at worship in a little bit. But no, I do have something.
Oh,
because,
okay.
Well, so here's the deal. Oh, did I save my spot? Yes, I did. So, sometimes we have a topic that we've been thinking about for a long time. Almost, sometimes it's even been the whole week, and we just kind of think about it. And, today was just one of those days where we just had not really
landed on one.
Yeah, we just hadn't landed on one. And so here's what we actually did this. So first of all, this is going to be a little bit of a pitch right now for you to go and fill out our survey.
Yep.
So we
important.
We've had a survey. I'm going to put it in the notes. So in the show notes, you'll be able to go to the link and fill out our survey. It's pretty awesome. It's very helpful to us because it does gives us some information. Like, it just helps us. Like, you're telling us topics that you might want for podcast or other resources. And so we've been saying that we just need to go through the list and basically just throw out all these podcast topics and just go through them and all these that people are suggesting. So we actually did that today. We went through and we just kind of landed on one that we were like, this is one that we think that that God's just telling us to talk about.
And that's what I love about it, because we could never run out of topics in the whole. No matter how long we do this, we could never say, I've run out of stuff to talk about. But we want to be sensitive to what the Lord's leading us to talk about. And I love how He brings something most of the time during the week as we talk to people or as we're dealing with stuff. It's like, oh, yeah, this is what we need to talk about Sunday. And a lot of that comes from this list. So y'all fill it out for us.
Yep, that's helpful. So someone at some point there were actually a few of these that said, how to restore intimacy after, and most of them were after an affair. But, as we started talking about it, this could be any type of wound, any type of betrayal, any type of broken trust. It doesn't have to be an affair, because we have plenty of listeners out there that have not walked through the journey of infidelity.
That's right.
Praise the Lord. But there's wounds that come up throughout marriage, and sometimes that makes it hard to be intimate physically.
And when you say wound, like your spouse hurts you in some way.
Right.
I know that we know what that means, but I just wanted to make sure that our listeners understand that it can be your spouse hurts you, even hurts your feelings or makes you mad. I mean, let's be real. For women, it's like, okay, you're going to make me mad like that and then expect me to be intimate with you, so it's not just, like you said, it's not just infidelity, but lots of other things as well. Sorry, my headphones just went out.
Uh-oh.
Should we tell them that you bought new headphones and not me? Rude.
Well, I am the producer of this show.
You are.
So.
And he always does everything in one take. And then today he said, hey, why don't you do the intro? Oh, I messed it up. I had to do it twice.
Take. It was 2 takes.
You're just so good at this.
Yeah, whatever. Well, we're about to find out, because I have no notes. I have this is Heather's dream right here.
That's right.
We're just chatting it up. But I will say this. If in our discussion of this, if there's something, if some of you are like, hey, that really was something that was important to us, and we need to dive into it a little bit deeper. Send us a message, and maybe we can take some notes.
That's right.
I'm just kidding. We know what we're talking about because we have lived through this.
That's right.
Okay, so the topic for today is restoring intimacy after a wound, after a betrayal, after trust issues, after infidelity, after pornography. I mean, it could be a lot of stuff. So, okay, so how do you even get there? Let's get started.
Yeah, let's do. So, as I was thinking about this, there's so many things that have to take place after a betrayal, after trust has been broken, after a hurt. And sometimes that may be a little bit of time, or if somebody hurts your feelings, it's not going to take 2 years for you to be intimate again.
Right. There's an appropriate break.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't think that you can say, oh, if you hurt your feelings, it's for 2 nights.
Right.
If it's an affair, it's 2 years. I mean, you can't, there's not it just varies.
There's not a chart.
But regardless of the hurt or the betrayal, there has to be some time in there for you to forgive and for you to trust that person again. No matter what that is. Somebody can hurt your feelings and break trust because you're like, God, that really hurt, and hurt you. And you have to be able to forgive them, and you have to be able to trust them again with your heart before you can open yourself up again to intimacy. Honestly, it's going to be different for men and women. I think men can recover quicker because
in general,
yeah. Just because intimacy, I think, is not more important, but maybe the drive is a little bit stronger to heal faster, because that's so important. Whereas in general, women, it takes a little bit longer.
Right.
For that.
Yeah. Let me jump in here and say, first of all, we know we're speaking in very general terms. We can't, there are lots of situations, especially, we know in marriage, there's lots of situations where the woman has a higher sex drive than the man.
Sure.
But generally speaking, it is the man that has the higher sex drive. And when you talk about how it is, it's different recovering intimacy, it's different when it's the guy that has done the betraying or when the girl has done the betraying. And I just feel the need to speak into that too. If there are guys out there that are listening, that you have betrayed your spouse and you can't figure out, how can they not get over this? So it was the opposite, obviously, with us. And, I was the one that was betrayed and had to, learn to trust again. And to think about how hard that was for me as a guy, that puts it in perspective of really how hard it is for a woman.
Sure.
Because like we said, it is a little bit different because there is such a physical need for a man for the most part. And so knowing what a struggle it was and how hard it was for me to trust you again intimately, like I would say that you would have to multiply that exponentially for a lady.
That's true. It's a good word.
Yep.
It
so,
is.
Anyway, I just wanted to jump in there.
Yeah. So so in thinking back for us, and I'm not saying it was just this one time. I mean, that we've had other hurts in our marriage. I'm just talking about this big one for us was the betrayal. Thinking back on that, I feel like you had to come to a place where you trusted me again. And I'm not talking about 100% trusted me, but there was trust building again for me. I was doing my part to show you that I was trustworthy. And you were seeing those changes in me and knew that trust was being built again. And then you had done the hard work of forgiveness. And, we've done so many podcasts on forgiveness and the parts of forgiveness, but I think it needs to be said that here forgiveness is not forgetting, but it's forgetting. I mean, it's forgiving the action, the betrayal, and what was done. So I don't think without those two things being done, that intimacy is even an option.
Right.
I mean, it's not something that you can do without those two things.
Yeah.
Those two steps.
Well, and, we've talked a lot about forgiveness on previous podcasts, and we've had some that were specifically about, do I really have to forgive? And, really that comes first. Like, you have to forgive your spouse, and then you can start the restoration process and the rebuilding of trust. And that's if your spouse is doing the work that is actually causing you to trust them again. Like, they have to do that.
Right.
And so I do think that there's probably people out there, spouses out there that have done the betrayal, and then they say, I don't know what else there is to do. Like, I'm doing everything that I can possibly do. It's been X amount of time, whatever your timeline is. Maybe you feel like it's been way too long, and you, because of where you are personally, you want to be intimate with your spouse again, but they're just not ready. So I think that there's got to be some tension there between couples.
And there was with us.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, there was.
Sure.
And I also want to say that it wasn't something that it wasn't a light switch.
No.
You didn't say, okay, I trust you again. I forgive you. I'm ready. Let's be intimate. And everything went great.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, we had to work through it.
And I remember times, too, as we were going along the journey, I think that you felt like you were ready and that you thought I should be ready, maybe. And I actually had to, I can remember times saying, I'm not ready yet.
Yeah.
And you had to honor that. I mean, that was something that, as the spouse that has betrayed, that would be one of the things that I would say is that you have to honor and respect the space and the time that it takes
That's right.
to rebuild that trust again.
Right. And it kind of goes along with that. We talk so much about the 4 options that you have when your spouse has built up a wall. It's the same thing. They have a wall built around their heart when it comes to intimacy. And, it's those exact 4 things. And just in case you don't know them or hadn't heard them, it's you can beg. And that would have done no good for me to say, come on, why can't you just get over it? That doesn't help. That's not okay. You can just run away and be like, fine, if you don't want me. I mean, there's lots of hurtful things that you could say during those moments. You can't run away. You can't beg. You can't, help me. Can't run away. Can't beg. You can't tear it down. Like just being forceful about it. Like, come on, if you, and I can even remember thinking, if we could just do it one time, I think that, in my head, I'm thinking, I think it'll be okay if we get, but you can't force that. You can't make that happen. And so, and then of course the other one is just making sure that you're the person that your spouse needs you to be. And that is not easy, especially when you want to convince them that you're different, or that you're ready, or just, and you can't. You have to honor your spouse's timeline, whether that looks like your timeline or not.
Well, I think, too, I was really, I know this is going to be a shocker to people, but I was very methodical in the healing process, and everything had steps to me. And that was the way that I sort of processed things, because even, and again, some people know the more of the details of our story because we've shared them, but I made you leave the house for a while.
Right.
And so you went and stayed with your parents for several nights. And then, the first step was me inviting you back to the house.
Right.
but you weren't
No.
sleeping in the bed.
No. Mm-mm.
So you were on the couch.
Mm-hmm.
And that went on for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
And, now knowing what we know, I don't think I even knew the whole, watching your spouse build a garden,
Sure.
reference,
Not at that
because
point.
it wasn't at that point. But looking back, that's exactly what I was doing.
Sure.
I had this huge wall built up, but I was watching everything you were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, there was no chance you were getting back in that bed until I trusted you.
Right.
And I remember, specifically remember the night that you were on the couch again.
Yep.
The kids were already in bed, and I walked in and I said, "Hey, I think I'm ready for you to come back and sleep in the bed."
But don't touch me.
I did. I said, but don't touch me.
Yeah.
And so again, that was just that next step.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that, that's the kind of thing, the people that are going through this, they need to, maybe, it's not one of those things that it's not even healthy, I don't think, to just jump back in.
No.
It's
because you're ignoring things at that point.
That's
like
right.
brushing things under the rug and pretending it doesn't happen.
That's right. And so, to take those little steps and to be able to invite, your spouse to take those steps with you, and then for your spouse to actually honor that, that goes a long way in,
Sure.
Moving towards intimacy.
That's right. That's right. I remember that like it was yesterday as well. I was out of the house for a little while. And I think you invited me back into our home solely for our boys.
That's
like,
right.
Yeah, I don't think that was like.
Well, it was just easy. I mean, because
Sure.
it was easier and it made sense.
Right.
And
we were trying to keep things as normal as possible for them.
Right.
They were much younger. And, even for a while, we've said this before, but even for a while, I was leaving after they went to bed. And then my dad would get up at the butt crack of dawn to get me back over here before they ever woke up. But it was respect of just not being in the house, you know. But then you were like, you saw that I was working really hard to try to keep things normal for them, and you wanted what was best for them. And so you said, you can sleep on the couch. And I mean, I can remember what a relief that was, just being able to be in my home. I would have slept there for years if you wanted me to. But just being able to be in our home and trying to keep things normal for the boys was just such a big step for me.
But you have to understand too that somebody that goes, that is betrayed like me, there's so much more in thinking through that. Like for you, when you were at your parents', that was a relief to me because I didn't have to babysit you.
That's right.
Like I didn't trust you.
Right.
And
right.
so I knew, hey, somebody else is babysitting
right.
her right now. Now I had your phone. I mean, I kept your phone. So you had no communication. I mean, it was just you and your parents. And so then inviting you back was, okay, well, I do trust you enough to where I'm going to take on the responsibility and the burden. I mean, I hate to say it this way, but
it was
babysitting.
Sure.
I mean,
Sure.
Because it was, and again, people out there are going, oh my gosh, are you telling me I got a baby? I don't want to be babysat. Or, well, and part of me is like, well, if you don't want to be babysat, don't make stupid baby decisions. I mean, again,
blood pressure's going up.
Let's not get started. But I mean, if you, but you've got to be willing to take those steps that your spouse can, that was just a part of gaining trust again.
Sure.
And so for you to come back and for me to still be watching you, but much closer, up close, then we were able to, continue taking those steps. The reason why I got my Bible out is because there is actual scripture about, I mean, it's about taking a break from physical intimacy. And so in 1 Corinthians 7, it talks about the wife not having authority over her own body, and likewise the husband not having authority over his own body. The wife does. And so, but then it says, stop depriving one another, and this is talking about physical intimacy, stop depriving one another except by agreement for a time, so that you may devote yourselves to prayer and come together again so that Satan will not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. Now, again, this, the context. I mean, we could talk about, is it talking about after, infidelity? I mean, let's just say the big picture of it is that, I mean, there's scripture that says, throughout the course of marriage, you don't deprive each other of physical intimacy, unless that you're both in agreement and for a time that, and so, again, we could step on all kinds of toes here. We could open up a can of worms, but what I want to be able to say is that as the spouse that has been betrayed, at some point, if your spouse is doing the stuff that's trustworthy again, even if they're doing everything they're supposed to be, I'm just telling you, it's still going to be hard to take that first step.
That's right.
But in order to move forward,
gotta take it.
You have to take that step.
Because it's so weird that you went that direction, because I was sitting over here before saying there has to be something said to the person who says, I don't ever have to be intimate with you again because of what you did. Mm-hmm. Because that, I mean, like there are people out there that, and I mean, I don't think that forgiveness has been given if that's the attitude of their heart. But I know there are people out there that are like, you betrayed me. You had an affair, or you broke trust, or you looked at pornography, and so that's it. We're done. Like yes, I'll forgive you. Yes, we can, but intimacy,
When we were going through this, we had some friends that were talking to us about the guy had some pornography addiction, and it took them a long time to get past that. And I know that's a situation for a lot of people that listen to us.
That's right.
And most of the time, it's the male has been addicted to pornography, or has had some betrayal in that area, and so the wife is like, I can't. I mean, how am I going to be physically intimate with you after you've looked at all this stuff? And so as we were talking with them, because they had moved past it and they were trying to help us at that point,
right.
And this was hilarious to me. But they said, well, finally, it was we were in the car together, and the wife said, okay, I think I'm ready. And then she said, it took a lot of wine, but I was finally ready.
Yeah,
and I just thought that, I mean, that was so honest,
That's
but
right.
it was so, but the thing is, you have to take, there is a step to trust, because if you don't take that step to trust, and again, this is your spouse earning that trust.
That's right.
But if your spouse has earned that trust and you don't take that step, then I'm just telling you that you are withholding yourself and your spouse the blessing of physical intimacy, and honestly, what that can actually do to heal your marriage.
That's right.
Because I'll say this, our physical intimacy is different than it was before. And it's a lot more real and genuine. Like, there's so much more meaning to it.
Sure.
And so I really do believe that if a couple that's been betrayed or have gone through betrayal, if they can get to a point where they're willing to take that step, and again, it's you have to accept their time frame, but at the same time, you, just like Scripture says, you don't withhold it. If you're going to stay together, then you need you need the physical intimacy. And speaking from our experience, it can be better than it was before.
Absolutely. And, I just want to encourage the people out there who are saying, okay, I need to do this. We need to be intimate again. You just have to take one step at a time. One step and you can try. I mean, we had to try several times before. I mean, sorry, that's a lot of honesty right there, but we did, I mean, we had to try. You said, okay, let's try this. We kissed, and then there were times at the beginning that you were like, okay, I can't, let's just stop. And that was okay. And we would just lay there and I would just hug you and be like, I'm just so sorry. I'm so sorry I hurt you. you have to say, God, what do you want me to do today? What step do you want me to take today? Even if it's a small step. And I'm in a Bible study that I'm doing right now, and I wrote something down on Friday that I was like, yes, this is so powerful, and it applies so beautifully to this. Striving puts things in our own hands. So when we're striving to do better, when we're striving to be intimate again with our spouse, when we're striving to make our spouse see that maybe he wants to be intimate again, or maybe she wants to be intimate again, we're putting things in our hands. But trusting is putting things in God's hands. And so trusting him to work in your spouse's heart, trusting him to open your spouse's eyes to what you're trying to do, trusting him with, God, I want to trust my spouse. I really, really do, but I'm so scared to open myself up again. Trusting him with even that is so much better than just striving to do better.
Yeah. I will say this too. There's people out there that just, they genuinely think I'll never get past this. There's no way. And I'll say that even after 11 years, as great as our marriage is, as great as our physical intimacy is, there are times when, images and things that I just can't, they come back, and I can't not think about it. And I have to take those thoughts captive every time. But it does. It's something that will haunt you forever, has the potential to haunt you forever, but it doesn't have to destroy you or devastate you. And it doesn't have to own you. And so there's just this balance, and there's also, I know I've said this before, but whenever things happen and I think things, not even on the physical side of things, but just when I think about it, instead of the dread of, oh my goodness, I've learned to just immediately turn it to, but thank God we're not there now, and thank God for where we are today.
That's right.
And so, look, it doesn't come natural, and it doesn't come easy.
Right.
But time obviously helps, and taking those steps, those steps of trust and faith and obedience.
And if you feel stuck, take a step. Just take a step. Even if you have been stuck for a really long time, and you've just, I am not doing this, and you're standing firm in your stubbornness, take a step.
And we haven't even talked about this, and we can't at this point talk about this in detail, but so much of this too is just communicating. We talk about communication all the time. It's got to be a safe place. If there's been betrayal, then even more so. Like the honesty, the rawness, the complete, I'm telling you everything has to be there. And if you've been betrayed, you need to be able to talk through it with your spouse and be able to say, look, I want to, but this is where I'm at, and this is what I'm currently struggling with, because your spouse also needs to know, okay, these are the things that that she's facing, he's facing because of what I've done, and I need to be sensitive to those things, but at the same time, I need to recognize he or she's trying.
That's right.
But because of what I've done, it's hard.
And because of what I've done, you cannot say the words, oh my gosh.
Right.
Just get over it. It's been so long,
exactly.
that you just can't. You can't.
Yeah. Well, I know that there's a lot of people out there with pain and hurt in this area. And look, we want nothing more than for the couples that listen to us to have a growing and flourishing physical relationship, because that is so important to the stability of a marriage. It's important spiritually, physically. And guys, we know that you can get there. And again, we talk about this kind of stuff because we're able to say, we've been there. We've done the hard work, and it's a picture that you can look at and be able to say, okay, there is hope.
That's right.
And so that's what we want to leave you with today. We're grateful that you took 30 minutes out of your day to listen to us. We'd love to hear from you, so reach out to us. If you get a chance, please give us a rating and review on the podcast platform that you listen to. And until next week, we'll see you then.